Once deployed, it'll travel over 1 billion miles around the Earth at 17,000 miles per hour. It'll spend its days sending research data to the NNU team back here on Earth. Next, NASA will construct NNU's Makersat-1 design on the International Space Station, which was 3D printed there last month. Once launched, it'll be the first satellite ever created in space. Thanks to NNU engineers.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this homecoming chapel. We're excited that you're here. Would you please stand with us as we open this morning with singing? Forever, sing praise, sing praise, with a mighty hand,
and an outstretched arm.
His love endures forever, for the life that's been reborn, His love endures forever, sing praise. Endures forever. By the grace of God, we will carry on. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Oh, sing praise. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever. Oh, forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever. Oh, forever. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name, sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name.
The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your
yesterday, today, and forever. You are with us. Amen. It's by your mighty hand and outstretched arm that we are sustained here as a community. So we pray that you would inhabit our praise today as we celebrate the accomplishments of those who are our family. We thank you so much for the blessings you've poured on us. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated.
Well, good morning. It's great to see each of you this morning, and thanks for gathering in on this Friday of homecoming for Homecoming Chapel. For those of you who know me, you may know that you may observe that things look a little different right now. Sorry about that. That's a little deal we're doing on our campus to raise a little money. Students, you'll get an email later today, but have some good news, an update from Monday, that it is now not a 2-to-1 match, but because another anonymous donor came forward, it's now a 3-to-1 match on all of your dollars. So keep that going, okay? We want to raise some money for our Student Commons project. Homecoming. It's a funny word for a lot of people who are here today and who have come back to campus for this weekend. This was home for only 4 years, or 5 or 6, or, you know. But it is a significant time of remembrance. And gathering together and having the opportunity to continue to nurture relationships, deep relationships that were built during those years on our campus. And so for our alum who have come back to campus, we do hope that it feels like home. I know it looks a little different for you. Things have changed pretty dramatically here on our campus physically, but things haven't changed a lot otherwise from the time that you were on our campus, for we still seek first the kingdom of God, and there's still over 100 faculty members who are just as interested in their students' spiritual well-being as in their intellectual education. And that's what makes NNU who she is. So welcome home. We hope that you have a great weekend. There are several groups with us today, and I want to recognize them, and then we can begin to recognize our honorees. It's my understanding that we have several prospective students on campus today that are kind of checking NNU out. If you're here, would you just stand, please, and let us welcome you, all of our prospective students. That's quite a group. Thanks for joining us. This is a little bit of a unique chapel and a little bit of a unique Friday, but we're sure glad you're here. And it is our hope that as you seek to find a place where you think the Lord wants you to spend your college years, that you would give us serious consideration. And it's our prayer that the Lord leads you here, but we want you where you sense He is leading you. And you'll have an opportunity today to see some of the finished product from here, and maybe that will factor in to your decision making, so welcome. We also have a lot of alums on our campus who are coming back for homecoming, some who are celebrating reunion years, others who just can't stay away and just want to hang out here. But if you're an alum of Northwest Nazarene University, our undergraduate program, whether traditional or untraditional or non-traditional or our graduate programs, would you please stand and let us welcome you? Thanks for being here. Students, take a good look. I know it's hard to believe, but that's you in 30 years. Sorry to be the one to break it to you, but it's great to have all of you back. I mentioned earlier that NNU is what it is because of the lives of people who have invested their lives here. And we have many of our faculty emeriti and other retired faculty and staff, as well as many of our current faculty and staff here. And it seems to me we would be remiss if we did not ask them to stand also. We also have President Emeritus Rich Haygood and Janella with us. So all of you, whether you're now a member of the faculty or staff or have served in that role previously, would you please stand and let us thank you for your service. And then it doesn't always work like this, but it's Veterans Day. At least it's the day that is being observed as Veterans Day. And I know that we have several veterans among us today. So if you have served our country in that way, would you please stand and accept our gratitude and our welcome this morning? Well, this morning is about recognizing some of our own. And we really believe that the education that Northwest Nazarene University provides really equips all of its graduates to go from this place and to make a difference in the world. But every year at this occasion, we take a few moments to recognize some who are representative of all of you, alums. And so we want to do that now. So if you turn your attention to the screens, we'll roll a video with regard to our first honoree.
Matthew Chitwood, a leader in helping students come alive through global citizenship and the integration of faith and vocation, earns the 2017 Young Alumnus of the Year Award. Matthew Chitwood graduated from NNU in 2004 with Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration and an emphasis in global management. His most memorable experience during his undergrad years was the semester he spent studying abroad in Central America. This experience was a time of transformation for Chitwood, as he was challenged to pursue life choices that aligned with his life purpose and how to live that out practically. Studying abroad gave him a passion for international travel and education, which he has been pursuing in China ever since. More than anything, NNU for me was a time of exploring and discovering my identity and personal character. Yes, there were books to read and exams to take, but at the heart of these academic efforts was a deeper purpose to refine my very being, Chitwood said, reflecting on his time at NNU. His work experience spans the business, education, and nonprofit sectors, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the U.S. State Department's Critical Language Scholarship Program, Council on International Education Exchange, and Asia International, just to name a few. He has earned a certificate in Mandarin Language and Culture from National Taiwan Normal University, a certificate of Chinese and American Studies, coursework in Mandarin, from Johns Hopkins University Nanjing University, and a Master of Arts in China Studies and International Economics from Johns Hopkins University. He has also enjoyed teaching university-level courses. Lars Olsen, a past coworker of Chitwood, says Matt is incredibly bright, articulate, and a pleasure to work with. He learns quickly and would be an asset to any organization. As I've always said, everything Matt touches turns to gold. Chitwood loves discovering hard-to-access parts of China and making similar experiences available to others. He currently leads study abroad programs for Where There Be Dragons in lesser-known parts of China, which involves giving students exposure to very different life perspectives and developing their abilities to navigate cross-cultural learning experiences. His goal is to help students come alive through global citizenship and the integration of faith and vocation. Recently, Chitwood applied for and was accepted for a long-term fellowship with the Institute of Current World Affairs. ICWA is a DC-based foundation with a mission to identify and cultivate rare potential. To fulfill his proposal for the prestigious appointment, he will be based in Yunnan, China's second poorest province. Chitwood will be studying and writing about changes in China's overall economic development. This opportunity will become a critical learning experience in achieving a goal he has been working on for the past 3 years, to create his own study abroad program that facilitates student growth in global citizenship, self-awareness, and leadership. I can think of nothing more meaningful than creating a study abroad program that sparks students to come alive. There is nothing better than when a student's eyes light up because they have experienced something that triggers in them that jump from abstract theory to practical application, commented Chitwood. The university is proud to name Matthew Chitwood as the 2017 Leon Doan Young Alumnus.
Thank you so very much. It is truly an honor to be here today. I must admit that I was a bit surprised to receive this award. I think first and foremost, I would have thought that President Pearsall would have exercised his veto authority when he saw my name on the list. You see, I was his son's camp counselor many years ago at church camp when I was with travel groups, and what his son didn't know at the time is that what happens at church camp stays at church camp. Unfortunately, when he got home at the family dinner table, they were having spaghetti. He thought it would be a good idea to share with the family what he learned from NNU's representative and his camp counselor, that cool guy from NNU. So he found the longest piece of spaghetti, snorted it up his nose, and began flossing. That was not my finest moment. And the finished product, to you prospective students, the finished product that President Pearsall was talking about, I'm still a work in progress. We'll get there someday. The other reason I was quite surprised is that I am just one of many people in the NNU community that are doing remarkable things. Young NNU grads are transforming their communities by holding public office, running hospitals and saving people's lives, saving endangered bird species. They are inventing growing shoes. It is incredible what this community is doing. I am so proud to be a part of the NNU community and the church tradition of people who are seeking first God's kingdom and thereby impacting families and communities and the world in so many different and inspiring ways. Educator and theologian Howard Thurman said, "Don't ask what the world needs, but ask what makes you come alive and go do it." Because what the world needs is more people who have come alive. NNU is a place that people discover what makes them come alive. And it was that place for me as well, as I got to speak in chapel on Wednesday. And it was here in this community that I first began to learn how to seek first the kingdom of God. God spoke to me through summer travel group experiences at camps, through pastoral professors who challenged my thinking, and through NNU's opportunities abroad as well. Perhaps most significantly, God blessed me with friendships here that have been formative to my character and my very understanding of who God is. Friendships that are lifelong. It's on this foundation at NNU that I have learned to seek first God's kingdom. If NNU helped build this foundation, then it is my family who is the bedrock of that, with Christ as the cornerstone. Thank you, my dear family, who has been only a constant source of love and support, even when your support, ironically, takes me very, very far away. You are God's unconditional love for me incarnate, and I would not be me without you. So thank you to my family. Thank you to this wonderful, wonderful NNU community for being a place where we can learn to seek first God's kingdom and discover what makes us come alive. Keep living that out, and we truly will change the world. Thank you.
Dr. Francis A. Sharpton has generously invested his time into the NNU community for over 30 years, earning him the 2017 Distinguished Service Recipient Award. Prior to joining the faculty of Northwest Nazarene College in 1970, Dr. Francis A. Sharpton graduated from the College of Ozarks in Arkansas in 1958 with a Bachelor of Science in Physics. In 1960, he received his master's degree in physics from the University of Arkansas, and in 1968, he received a PhD in physics from the University of Oklahoma. Sharpton served as a professor of physics at both Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas, and Olivet Nazarene University in Kankakee, Illinois. Dr. Sharpton became a full-time faculty member at Northwest Nazarene College in 1970 and has been an active member of the NNU community for over 30 years. He served as professor and chair of the Department of Physics. His favorite course was calculus-based physics. Throughout his time at NNU, the most rewarding and memorable experience was fostering the personal growth and development of students. Whether in the classroom, on field trips, or through special retreats, he and his wife were there to mentor students in their walk with Christ. These are the moments he cherishes and remembers most. The Sharpton years set the foundation in engineering for where we are today. Francis taught most, if not all, of the engineering courses for many years, and set a high standard that really benefited our students as they entered the workforce or graduate school. The labs that he built up and the equipment he secured were vital to the success of our transitioning to our current ABET program, said Dr. Dan Lawrence, the current chair of the Department of Physics and Engineering. Sharpton was also an active member of the Athletic Council until his retirement in 2001, and from 1987 to 2013, he volunteered to provide maintenance for the university diesel bus. This included qualifying and arranging for drivers, submitting Idaho Department of Transportation travel reports, arranging for remodels, rebuilding the diesel engine, and logging thousands of miles transporting NNU sports teams. Dr. Sharpton's passion for service has made an enormous impact on the NNU community, even now as he continues to volunteer his time to the university in his retirement. When asked what advice he has for NNU students, alumni, and professors, he said, "Trust in God and lean upon his everlasting arms." The university is proud to select Dr. Francis A. Sharpton as the 2017 Distinguished Service recipient.
After listening to President Pearsall's introduction, I was thinking that the disadvantages of being at so many different schools in my past history is that you get calls, people wanting money for endowment in so many different places. And you can, now that you know where I've been to school, you know the schools that call me. And they're not NNU. Well, be honest with you, I'd rather be in the back of this building, sitting on the back row, than up here. But my fondest memories, of course, are with my students, former students. And there are several things that come to memory. One of them was, since we took several trips to either Richland, Washington, or the Bay Area, one memory I had was going into San Francisco, and since we had several vehicles, they put me as the lead person. And I remember trying to find an address, and that was before we had GPS or good maps. And so I ended up going down a lot of dead-end streets and had to make a U-turn. And at the end of the year, that year, in the science building, Science Lecture Hall, we had awards. And my students gave me a T-shirt that said, "Dr. U-Turn." I've made a lot of U-turns since then. Another occasion, and I won't mention how we solved this problem, since physics is a problem-solving discipline, But on another trip to San Francisco, we were heading up Donner's Pass, and they had the signs out, chains required. We had 3 cars, 2 sets of chains. But we made it over Donner Pass. And you can ask me later how we did it. I'm not going to tell you. It is with great joy and that I accept this award. Obviously, I didn't do the things I did for rewards, but I did it because there was a need, and I worked to meet the need. And it's my privilege today that I accept this with honor and trust in you. And thanks to NNU.
Dr. Carolyn A. Fitch, an award-winning professor, lecturer, and researcher, earns the 2017 Alumni Professional Achievement Award. I could have received the academics at any number of institutions, but NNU met me at a place where I needed nurturing, coupled with the academic rigor, all the while being trained to be successful in life after NNU, remarked Dr. Carolyn A. Fitch. Since her college days, Dr. Fitch has compiled an impressive resume: BS in physics, PhD in biophysics, research scientist at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center Laboratory for Extraterrestrial Physics, researcher and professor at Johns Hopkins University and the Naval Academy, just to name a few of her accomplishments. Her passion is people, and throughout her career, she has always kept relationships at the forefront of everything. In 2008, Fitch began her teaching career at Johns Hopkins University in the Department of Biophysics, and she is currently working to develop new teaching models for undergraduates. She wants to empower students who are interested in biophysics and help them succeed by learning science fundamentals and participating in research-based projects. I am working to enable students to understand the fundamentals of our discipline in a rigorous but fun environment. I hope my students look back fondly on their experience here at Hopkins in the same light as I do in NNU, explained Fitch. During her years as an undergrad, Fitch found the small class sizes and connections with her professors at NNU to be exactly what she needed. It was a place where she was able to grow spiritually and also be pushed academically. NNU engages and affects all domains of life: intellectual, social, physical, and spiritual. It has been one of the great joys of my life to see Carolyn Fitch's growth in each of these areas, both during her 4 years as a student at NNU, then NNC, and now through her exemplary career of achievements at Johns Hopkins University, said Dr. Darrell Marks, Professor Emeritus of Physics. Dr. Carolyn A. Fitch is an award-winning professor, lecturer, and researcher, earning her the 2017 Alumni Professional Achievement Award.
They had me start to use this technology, and I knew I was in trouble if I used it here. But as you'll know, preparation, oh, there we go. Does it work? It just doesn't like my fingerprint. We're all going to biometrics now, right? We have to. So Darcy, they went short, so I'm okay, right? She promised me it was okay. I Googled this morning the length, the number of words and what I wrote, and how long is that going to take me to say, and it was 150 words a minute. Well, I'm at 1,800 words, so you can do the math, Dr. Sharpton. So, Alumni Board, thank you for the invitation, and Alumni House, thank you for the the hospitality. Darrell and crew thought of everything to make our stay wonderful and something to cherish. It is my privilege to stand here before you representing in a way that, of course, Matthew already alluded to. The accomplishments of the NNU graduates are many, and here I am just being a representative of what many others have already done. We all know, we all need, whether we admit it or not, affirmation in our lives and in our work. And this particular award filled a void in my life at the time, and I'm grateful that God allowed me this moment to come my way. Thank you for the chance to reflect this past year, since we were told a year ago, and perhaps to renormalize my life back to my roots that began here at NNU. I take this as an opportunity to personally say thank you to those who have directed me along the way, to encourage others to continue to do so similarly, and to encourage those that are in the midst or beginning of their journey. I have been extremely fortunate in life that I, for the most part, was able to follow where my dreams and passions led. And NNU was one of those junctures. NNU provided the foundation and environment that I needed at that formative stage in life, and many people make that experience happen here. Starting with the admissions team, who brings together those freshmen, that entering group of freshmen. Bruce Webb was the admissions director when I was a prospective student, and without all those letters from Bruce, I wouldn't have been here. Thank you, Bruce. To the president, who directs it all and makes everything come together, and sometimes agrees to premarital counseling. Thank you, Dr. Wetmore. To the many volunteers, of whom there are many on this campus, Marion Washburn being one of those who led a group of women in Christian character. Thank you, Marion. To April, who today opened her home to us to stay. Thank you, April. To the staff in the pool area. Remember the pool in the gym? You still have a pool, right? Thank you to those who washed those swimming suits that we had to wear. To the professors who spent long hours, year after year, apparently never tiring, helping freshmen to develop the skills to get them through college. Dr. Neal, from you, I learned I could not get by writing a biblit paper the night before it was due and expect an A. Something's never changed. I wrote this last night. However, I did think about it for 9 months. So, when I arrived on campus, I was unsure of the major that I wanted to be in. I knew I wanted to be a surgeon. I didn't become a surgeon. But whether to major in philosophy or physics was my question. I pretty much decided that they were the same thing, and since I needed the science credits, I went for physics. I never turned back. And I think once you decide on a major here at NNU, you never turn back, because the community that greets you and grabs a hold of you nurtures you, and you just love it. You are captivated by the department that you sign up to. Dr. Ford, Dr. Marks, Dr. Sharpton. And I will throw in that mix Dr. Bose and Dr. Woodward from history and Bose from religion made a difference in my life. They cared, their doors were open, and they would and did go out of their way to help students. So many memories have flooded through my mind over the past 9 months. I need to come back more often. It helps me feel young again. New friends that last a lifetime, eating strange foods. First time I had venison from a family at a church we were going to, invited us over. First time I had rattlesnake. It tastes like chicken. You can ask Chris, my husband, about that one. And I married him. My summer abroad with Youth in Mission showed me the world. Ice cream socials in professors' homes filled with philosophical discussion, making you feel like you were learning the ultimate of everything. Life lessons in grace and humbleness from very wise professors. I recall Dr. Sharpton and Dr. Marks, like he mentioned and alluded to, filling up their cars with physics majors and literally driving 12 hours so that we could view see the latest in technology and science, visiting SLAC, the Stanford Linear Accelerator, I was moved and motivated, inspired. I recall Dr. Sharpton leaving for the day from the science building only to return late at night to prepare his work for the next day for us. And I remember fondly seeing the entire physics department. This is a first for NNU, I think, at our wedding. These things are the outflow of the love people have to keep the NNU experience relevant to young people and the love NNU professors have for their calling. It makes the difference. Thank you. At the end of our NNC years, Chris and I wanted to express our thanks to Dr. Sharpton. He was so active in helping us, especially that last year in our next stage of life. The only thing we could think of was to ask you to supper. I don't know if you remember that, but Chris had that little house over near one of the engineering setup buildings right now in the field. And you and Wanda graciously accepted the invitation, and I still cherish that Christmas ornament that you gave to us that day. On that note, when you have professors who care much, you also have spouses who do as well. And I'm going to take the liberty to ask forgiveness after the fact. But Dr. Purcell asked people to stand who were certain parts of the NNU community. I'd like to ask to stand the spouses of those that work at NNU. Would you stand? And can we congratulate you for those roles that you carry in our lives? I think sometimes you're overlooked, and I know Wanda was a support for Dr. Sharpton through it all. Spouses, you are loved and thanked. As much as I enjoyed physics and math, there was another course that I really liked, and that was PE. Why? Because I don't know if you still have that. You might have to now if I mention it. But we could go up to Bogus Basin for $5 on Tuesdays and spend the entire day skiing and earn our PE credit. It was wonderful. Swimming might have been my favorite, except for those swimming suits. I've always liked to study. I love books. I love solving problems. And in the basement of the old science building, we would spend hours upon hours working over homework assignments. One of those fellows that was with me doing that was a fellow in Levi's, red polo, and Sperry's that we shall say I noticed. This is the guy who would appear to be sleeping as Dr. Sharpton wrote in chalk on the 4th or 5th blackboard in his duration of electric flux by considering a Gaussian surface in the form of cylinder at radius r. He would raise his hand, this fellow in red, and say, excuse me, Dr. Sharpton, but I think you forgot a negative sign over there. And sure enough, Dr. Sharpton would go back and he'd say, "You're right, Chris." Sharpton was wise. When my Lancia was having electrical problems, I thought I would be wise myself and ask Dr. Sharpton for advice. He did give advice, but not in the form I had wanted. I wanted to do things for myself, but I took his advice. He said, I should ask the guys in physics. They know cars. I should add, another nice thing about Bogus is it's a very romantic spot for a fellow to take a knee and ask a life-changing question. I said yes. A group of us became quite good friends in physics and math, and yes, several of them did know cars. Marcus, Chris, Scott would have car parts, motorcycles strewn all over their rooms, and Corlette in their houses they rented. Friends are such an important part of our lives as students in any 4 years of college. I wish we could pick up right where we left off. Lisa, Lenore, Kristen, Laura, Art, Brian, Sherry, Gina, Vicky, Karen, many others. I hope some of you are here today. Career-wise, probably the most important thing I did while at NNU was taking Dr. Sharpton's advice a second time. He pulled me aside one day and said, "Carolyn, you should fill this out." It was an application for an internship at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. I did, and I spent my summer studying magnetospheric physics and learning how to program computers. It was that internship that enabled me to spend 5 years at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center working to understand the motion of ions in space, alongside Dr. Melvin Goldstein, who became my next mentor and friend in life. I made that switch from studying physics at the astronomical unit, AU astronomical unit, very large, to studying the atomic units, very small, of proteins. Recently, I watched a TED Talk. The speaker was Jennifer Doudna. I expect Jennifer will be the next Nobel laureate in medicine or chemistry. Why? What has she done? She has opened up the way to edit genomes. How is this possible? It's through harnessing a very natural occurring process where cells protect themselves and acquired immunity of cells. This is not what I study now, but what I do study will enable this technology to be used to rid the world of disease like the affliction of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis that my father-in-law now endures. That possibility fuels my passion to understand how cells function at the level of proteins, the workhorses of biology. At Johns Hopkins, the mission is research and teaching. The practical extension of this is my job, to teach students to bring the current relevant research into the classroom. I do this amidst a very active household, and sometimes not all of me is available to them. In fact, missing soccer games sometimes is the norm and not the exception. They put up with me, Benjamin, Alyssa, Sean, including my return trips in the evening to my lab to get ready for the next day. I thank you, kids. I told Benjamin, my eldest, as soon as Idaho is over, you can run my life. This was because I was in the lab every day past supper time for the past 7 days. Benjamin was quick. He grabbed his phone and put it on record, Mom, said, "Okay, Mom, say that again." So not only my immediate family, but my extended family take a hit from me being so caught up in my work sometimes that I don't get promised packages mailed or phone calls returned. Even Chris's family, who are near us on the East Coast, don't always get my attention they should. I reserve the most thanks, though, to one man, Chris, who really has taken a hit for my whims to follow my passions in science. He really should be up here with me. I have not told him the thanks deserved, but I do now. Thank you. NNU grounded me, NNU grounded me and laid the foundation for me to build on. Now I get to do what I'm passionate about. There's not a day I do not think about my professors and just the pure love of being in an academic environment to literally telling my students, let's do a back-of-the-envelope calculation or write a derivation on the wall. Now we don't have chalkboards, we have walls painted with dry erase board. So we can write on all four corners of the room. Now I'm cognizant that I am influencing those around me, and I strive to do a job similarly as they did. I think I'm not so patient, and I have yet to find the perfect balance. Today, NNU clearly continues to build the foundation for its students. I'm so glad. It takes an army of service-minded people aligned in purpose to make this all happen. Yesterday, I had lunch with Dan Lawrence and Dan Nogales. I could hear it in their stories. They too have a love for their work and for their students. The mission continues. And the students, I asked my nephew, "What is your favorite class this semester?" His answer, all of them. Finally, I do have one regret, disappointment. Despite being fortunate to having a devoted family who is here with me today, I wish my parents were here. They are the ultimate support, being a constant, never-ending source of love. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for believing in me and encouraging me to live my dreams and to follow my passions. Thank you.
Steve Woodworth has spent his career in both the public and private sectors, creating systems to support vulnerable children and teens. NNU is proud to honor him as the 2017 Alumnus of the Year. Steve Woodworth represents the finest achievement of Northwest Nazarene University, stated Dr. Jerry Hull, NNU alumnus, and former professor of social work. Steve has invested 37 years serving Idaho's needy, vulnerable, and at-risk youth. Throughout the years, Steve has worked with hundreds of professionals, community leaders, and political and judicial entities to save youth and families, helping young people set a course for responsible citizenship. Coming to NNU in 1973, Steve Woodworth approached his education with the desire to help persons in need. "Working on behalf of the less fortunate appealed to me," commented Woodworth. "I decided to major in social work because I felt it was more action-oriented than sociology or psychology." Besides studying social work, Woodworth was heavily involved on and off campus. He served as sophomore and junior class president, played on the baseball team, participated in Circle K Club and In Club, took part in many student events and intramural sports, and interned in the community. The relationships and community Woodworth found during his college experience proved to be impactful for his future. Over the years, I've come to the realization that NNU provided a safe emotional environment, friendships, education, social experiences, and challenges that helped me develop the self-esteem I lacked growing up and the confidence I needed to become a leader, explained Woodworth. At that time in my life, I needed to be part of an accepting community, people I could look up to, and the spiritual fellowship that NNU provided for me. Following graduation in 1978, he began his career in the field of juvenile justice. Over 13 years, Woodworth worked as a chief juvenile probation officer, state coordinator of Idaho's youth rehabilitation system, and chief for Idaho's Juvenile Justice Bureau. During this time, he was appointed by Governors Evans and Andrews as the administrator for Interstate Compact for Juveniles, a member of Idaho Commission for Children and Youth, and a member of Incarceration Work Group. He also earned his Master of Public Administration from Boise State University in 1988. In 1991, Woodworth left his position at the Juvenile Justice Bureau and accepted his appointment as Regional Director for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. When this appointment ended in 1994, he transitioned from government to the private sector, becoming Director of Operations for Idaho Youth Ranch. Woodworth was promoted to Executive Vice President in 2000 and to CEO in 2007. Under Steve's leadership, Idaho Youth Ranch has effectively transitioned from its traditional role as a contractor for the Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections to an independent organization providing a continuum of services to Idaho's at-risk youth and their families, stated Rick Alice, President and COO of Idaho Youth Ranch. In over 40 years of military service, state government service, and private law practice, I have never seen a more remarkable display of leadership. As CEO of Idaho Youth Ranch, Woodworth has been responsible for the strategic direction and fund development of the organization whose mission is to provide at-risk and troubled youth a bridge to a valued, responsible, and productive future. This organization creates change through therapeutic and educational services of adoption, crisis counseling, family therapy, residential treatment, workforce training and graduate assistance, as well as through social enterprises of e-commerce business, a vehicle dealership, and 30 thrift stores. In June, after a 10-year tenure, Woodworth stepped aside as CEO to take on a new role for Idaho Youth Ranch as corporate ambassador. He will be raising capital contributions and ensuring a smooth transition for new leadership in the support, mentoring, and outreach position. He remains wholeheartedly committed to the vision of Idaho Youth Ranch. I'm passionate about strengthening the safety net for our kids through the creation and execution of a shared vision among nonprofits, donors, volunteers, and community leaders, added Woodworth. A vision that includes sharing knowledge, expertise, and resources, solving problems together, and building on each other's strengths. A vision where it's easier for kids and their families to get help earlier, and where there's no longer a stigma to seek help. As a result of his distinguished career and honorable work for the youth and community of Idaho, Steve Woodworth is the 2017 Alumnus of the Year.
A little emotional. I want to say I'm really very honored and humbled to receive this award, and to be up here with these other award recipients. What a distinguished group of people. I'm very humbled. When Jerry Hull called me a little over a year ago, and he said, "Steve, I'd like to nominate you for an alumni award." And he's very gracious, and I said, "Sure, that's great." And he got off the phone, and I'm like, "Oh, that's never going to happen." So I was pretty relaxed about the whole thing. And then I received my award letter from Darrell Bruner. And I'm like, oh no, what are my friends going to think about this? And it's we've already connected with several of my classmates and, been telling stories. And I can tell you I had some just wonderful experiences at NNU and friends that last forever. It's been a real joy for me to connect with Jerry and with Ben Sherrill. And Ben Sherrill and his wife are right here, and Ben was my faculty advisor, I think, is what they called them in those days. And anyway, he was a person that got me on track in my junior and senior years academically, so that I actually made it through school and got out. I got to know Jerry later when I was working for Canyon County Juvenile Court Services, and I helped him and as a social work professor with some field experiences for his students there at Canyon County, and then we got to know each other. And I just want to thank both of them for personally making a difference in my life. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, whether you're in school or you're in working, it's all about these relationships that you develop over time. And I think about the kids that I've worked with the Youth Ranch and the families that I worked with and my staff. And I know when the kids come back after years and years being gone from the Youth Ranch, they don't ask about, oh gosh, how's the positive peer culture going? You know, what they ask about is where's Joe, my counselor? How's he doing? It's all about that relationship that you develop between those kids that makes the difference. And I know the same thing happens at NNU, and that happened for me here. It was my friends, it was other students, it was my professors, and I'm very appreciative of that experience. Another great experience from NNU was meeting my wife, Cherie. She's right down here, my beautiful wife, Cherie, and we'll have been married now 39 years in May. Have two wonderful children, Jenna and Joni, and now sons-in-laws who are terrific. But Cherie's been my rock. And in all the different jobs that I've had through the years, you know, she'd worked too, but she stuck with me. And through the difficult times and the moving and the times I was away from home, she was there for me. And I just want to thank her for being such a wonderful wife. And I'm really pleased my family can be here and some of my best friends, my old friends. I mean, they're old. We're all old. And it's been great already seeing everyone. And then I wanted to thank Darrell and his team because they've sort of helped guide us through this process over this past year. And I was thinking about Darrell. Darrell's a year older than I am, and he played on the basketball team, and he was like the enforcer, in a good way, right? And for those of us who were around, you remember how aggressive he was on the court and got things done. And I guess probably those are good qualities to have if you're going to be the director of alumni relations, right? So during the last few years of the time I spent as CEO of the Idaho Youth Ranch, I had to do the same type of work that Joel does. And so I spent a lot of my time meeting with friends of the Youth Ranch and prospective donors and raising funds. And I recall this experience I had with this gentleman, a meeting that we had together, and he had been very successful in business, and he was retired. He had been a mentor to one of the students in our YouthWorks program, and he was looking for some other assignments. Basically, he wanted to know how he could help with other Youth Ranch programs. So we got together in my office, and we were just kind of sharing ideas, and we were talking about our lives and those things that really impacted our lives. And it was interesting that his experience was so similar to mine. He went to a liberal arts college. He grew up, and he had some real challenges in his life. He didn't have much self-confidence, and like the quote that they had up there for me, the same thing was true with me. That when I came to NNU, I was a pretty insecure teenager, I guess. I had, because of things that had happened in my life, I had some resentment that I hadn't resolved, and I had anger. And but I did a pretty good job hiding that and put on a pretty good front. In fact, in our work, we call that fronting. You're just kind of hiding behind who you really are. And so, like him, this college made all the difference for me. It was the perfect place for me to end up. And what I recall is that, unconditional love. I think some people in secular society, they like that idea. Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard. But it was that acceptance that I received from the people here at NNU, my friends and the professors, just all the staff here. You knew that you were accepted no matter what. And that slowly, deep inside, and then the spiritual connection that I got through, having the more intimate relationships with my friends where we could talk about the things that bothered us and, our relationship with God and maybe those things that I didn't really want to make public. That had such an important kind of bearing on my life. It really changed my life. And over time, I was able to develop the confidence to now go on to do what I've been able to do for other kids in the state who really are in the same position. In fact, many of them have had much more difficult lives than I've had. And so it was that foundation that I got here at NNU that really set the course for my life. So I'm very glad to be here with you all again, and I look forward to spending time with you through the day and the next few days, and thank you very much for this award.
Hello, I'm Eddie Miles. I'm the Vice President of the Alumni Board, and I appreciate all of you attending today and listening to these great stories from these award recipients. I'd like to dismiss us and close us in prayer, but before we do that, if I could dismiss the recipients and their immediate family members now, and they'll be up in the lobby for you to meet and visit with them after we close. And after I pray, I think the Crusader Choir is going to close this out with some songs, and you're welcome to visit with the recipients after that. Shall we pray? Dear Lord, thank you for these that have been recognized for their extraordinary work and accomplishments. What a great testament of your work here on earth. Go with all of us and help us to be extraordinary in the world. Amen.
Yeah, you're dismissed. We ran out of time, but if you want to hear Crusader Choir and Orchestra, we'd love for you to come tomorrow night. 7:30 is the concert. We'd love to have you. See you later.